Hello, everybody. The news came out the other day that Daniel Khalifa was found guilty of spying, breaches of the Official Secrets Act. And if you read that act, the most recent iteration of it from about 40 years ago, saying you can't disclose information which would be reasonably expected to be secret and blah, blah, blah. So one can be subject to it even if one has not signed the Official Secrets Act. But people who work for certain government agencies are required to sign it. Um, so to begin with, his spying wasn't even thought to be that serious. He's a British man who's partly ethnically Iraqi. I think he had family living in Lebanon and so on. So he grew up in London, Richmond upon Thames, and then he decided he was going to join the army. Was in the Royal Corps of Signals. But anyway, he at the age of only 17 had contacted Iranian intelligence. Okay, so then what he did was he got a hold of classified information about British military personnel, other details about them, some secret documents and things like that, passing them on to officers of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, relations with the Islamic Republic and the United Kingdom have always been poor, but the UK hasn't broken off diplomatic relations. I think way back in the 1980s, when even when the all those American diplomats were taken hostage, the UK still had somehow diplomatic relations. It was only when the fatwa against Salman Rushdie came out, when the Grand Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini said he'd pay $1 million to whoever assassinated this British author. The United Kingdom broke them off, restored them in the late 90s. But there's been a complete lack of cordiality. Partly goes back to the a coup d'etat against Mohammad Mossadegh, or even 1942 when the United Kingdom invaded Iran. Now, very few British people know about that, but I can guarantee you most Iranians do know about that. So Great Britain often seen being the little Satan, just the lackey of the United States, being very much supportive of Zionism and so forth. And this was evidenced again when there was that major missile attack by Iran on Israel, and the Royal Air Force helped shoot down some of these missiles. Why on earth the UK would stick its neck out for Israel is beyond me. What has Israel ever done for the United Kingdom? Okay, some intelligence sharing, but that's really a quid pro quo. Or I don't want to see Israel wiped off the map. I don't want to see Iran or Palestine wiped off the map. The United Kingdom should, mind its own business and not go starting fights like that or getting involved in them. Anyway, so Daniel Khalife was passing on this military intelligence. The United Kingdom and Iran clearly see each other as rivals, as hostile states, so they're not actual enemies. But anyway, it doesn't tell us much we didn't already know, because the Iranians would like to recruit an agent inside an organization they wish to penetrate. So he was already in the British Army. And some of it was so amateurish, as in messages via Facebook, which could easily be hacked and presumably read by the intelligence services. So he's able to identify people in the special boat service, special air service. Those are elite British military units and so on. And so passing all over these to the Iranians. What was he actuated by? Money, I suppose. So he didn't receive a great amount of money, at least £1,500. And then he hoaxed these documents about British policy seeking the release of Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, a British Iranian woman who was in jail in Iran, allegedly for espionage. So when he was arrested on suspicion of breaking the Official Secrets Act, he was actually bailed and even allowed to go back to his barracks, which might seem staggering because could run away is a flight risk because he's facing a fairly long prison sentence, or could indeed access even more information. Could he get access to firearms? There's no telling what he could do. But anyway, he was later remanded in custody, and sensationally, in September 2023, he managed to escape from prison. He was held in Wandsworth Prison in London, climbing under this lorry that was taking, was it laundry out? And getting out, and was on the run for 3 days before he was eventually nabbed. So wow, it shows lax security arrangements at the prison. He was put in his category B. Category A is the most dangerous people, murderers, rapists, terrorists, or whatever. Category B a bit less dangerous. Category C, then they're open prisons. So I would say he should have been category A straight away. So I mean, morality aside, you've got to say hats off to him for his audacious escape. No one's managed that for a long time, but the prison service was really caught napping. So yeah, so Iran is actively spying on the United Kingdom. Surprise, surprise. They want to find out about the British Army. They think there might be a war there. They're particularly interested in the SAS because it probably wouldn't be a full scale war. The British special services might go over there to do something, find out who they are. Why? Would Iran want to assassinate these men and women here? Would it want to intimidate them? They said them hate mail, spy on them. These are the things that they could consider useful to them. Remember, 70 million people in the United Kingdom, and there are tens of thousands of people of Iranian descent in the United Kingdom. Now, many of them are secular or liberal, absolutely abominate the Iranian regime, but a few will be genuine supporters. And for ideological reasons, would want to be helping the Iranian government. I mean, a lot of the people, Iranian people in the United Kingdom, are British citizens. Some are not. A lot of permanent residents are not, are just students. So a lot of affluent Iranians, even if they're pro-regime, like to have their children studying abroad. I can't think of a single well-regarded Iranian university very much into learning the English language. The education is beneficial, even if you really like the current dispensation in Iran. So some of the dissidents in London are being spied on. Obviously, there's some informants within dissident organizations. Yeah, so you think there's rather sort of Keystone Cops version of intelligence. So Daniel Khalife concocted this cock and a bull story that really he was trying to help MI5, and he was going to be a double agent and feed misinformation to the Iranians and all the rest of it, and he could be a conduit for this. But this was a desperate attempt to avoid prison. So he pleaded guilty and he was found guilty. But then his sentence was delayed to actually the 3rd of this month, even though he was convicted way back in November. So he's been awarded 14 years and 3 months in prison. So quite a long time, actually, even longer than you'd expect. It wasn't that vital. It was only a private in the army who was quite low down. But the bench obviously takes a very serious view of this. So convictions for espionage in the United Kingdom are rare. They're not for years. And the British Army is tiny, only 70,000 soldiers, which shows that even someone quite like low level like him can get access to information. It wasn't really that secret, but who's in the SAS and the SBS? I mean, apparently the SAS is actually quite small, only a couple of hundred of them, the Special Boat Service. Um, but they're like the best of the best, have this superhuman fitness standard and all that kind of thing. There might be other things that the Iranians would like to know, but just that Daniel Khalif wouldn't have that much access to access to them. I suppose they would like to he can, as a long-term agent, he'd rise up the ranks after several years, maybe even decades in the army, and be access to higher and higher classified information. A certain level in the armed forces, I mean, usually officers, they have developed vetting DV, like a sort of all-day interview, and nominate a couple of people, family member and non-family member, to be interviewed in depth. Speak very frankly about their sexual behavior, about any past drug use and so on. Do they have recruitable vulnerabilities? Is there anything that they can be blackmailed over? Is this person mentally, psychologically stable, trustworthy? And it's crucial that the interviewee doesn't lie to the interviewer, because then patently one can't repose trust and confidence in such a person. So Daniel Khalifa sent down, and there was a sort of dead drops being used. So it's fascinating the way it's actually quite low tech, but partly because almost all messaging systems can be hacked. Even WhatsApp can be hacked, but that's actually very difficult to do. And the Iranians are actually not terribly good at technology. Their main opponents, the Israelis, are streets ahead. The Israelis are said to be the masters of encrypting these things and deciphering secret codes. So sometimes the old technology is the best because you have to have someone physically present. You can't have your eye in the sky hacking it. But Hamas in Gaza went back to handwritten notes because the only way to get that one is to physically intercept it. Right. The danger with that one obviously is a lot slower, but there we are. Because if you're going to actually get to the dead drop, you need someone who's physically there. And obviously, the security service intelligence have very limited numbers. Well, thank you for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon and donate on PayPal, George Callahan 79 at gmail.com. Goodbye.